What's up, guys? Gun here. Happy Wednesday, October 30th, 2019. Big time slate for NBA DFS. Seems like thus far we've been hit with a lot of high lows. Big slate, small slate, big slate, slate. It gets better. It gets better going forward. But big slates, I don't mind big slates because it offers a ton of value and you could really play stars and scrubs with a whole lot of confidence, at least a lot more confidence than maybe last night's slate. But it also gives you the unfortunate responsibility to field a lot of news before lock. Lots of ifs, ands, buts, questionables, rest, minute restrictions, and it gets overwhelming at times. So get a team, man. Be part of a team that does this together. And I can't stress enough that I have a pretty good one over at RunDFS.com. So jump in there, grab yourself a week pass, test it out, man. I have spreadsheets up for you guys that's going to feature stats from this season so far, DVP, my personal player pool, and then, of course, 24/7 access to the exclusive RunDFS.com VIP Discord. And then every day before lock, for 2 hours before lock, you could find me in the RunDFS.com VIP voice chat, talking plays, fielding questions, and a lot of cats are in there just keeping an eye on the news and reacting to the news, digesting the news. What does it mean? Having a team. Many hands make light loads, and for big slates, man, it is very, very, very lucrative to have one. We've got so many games to talk about tonight, but last night, a 3-game slate of NBA DFS did occur, and we're going to give away some of our nightly awards, so let's reverse it, rewind it just a second, and talk about our 4 players of the night. First of all, the beast of their night, Anthony Davis, 10,300 on DraftKings.com, 73.5 fantasy points over there. He was a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, got you 73 at over 12K. But some people might argue you need that. Nonetheless, he did it in an incredible fashion, and in a fashion that only daily fantasy sports will give you. He played 31 minutes against the Memphis Grizzlies, had 40 real points and 20 rebounds. My man 40-20'd and basically 3/4 of work. The irony here is, and I'll even share how it affected me. The irony here is in the middle of the slate, not in the middle, more so in the first, before the second game locked, the Denver Nugget game locked, tweet came out, said that he was a game time decision dealing with a shoulder injury, and that was something that we didn't anticipate. So if you're like me and you ran a bunch of lineups, I had 60+% of Anthony Davis, and that became 25%. So on DraftKings, you can late swap your players, and because of multi-position eligibility, I had Anthony Davis in several spots, the center position, the forward position, and the util position. As a responsible, low risk tolerance player that I am, I swapped all of my forward AD to LeBron. I swapped all of my center AD to Nikola Jokic, and I kept AD in the util spots, knowing that if I had to again, I could swap that to LeBron if AD got rolled out. So long story short, 60% became 25%, and it got worse because let's talk about the bust of the night, Trae Young. And I really hate to tag players who got injured as a bust of the night, but there was really no other candidates in terms of a points per dollar breakdown, and the ownership on Trae Young was wild. So first things first, Trae Young got injured in the first quarter, rolled his ankle. Looks like he could miss a couple weeks maybe. So thoughts out to him. I hope he gets better. He's been incredible to start the season, a fantastic fantasy play, and he was 50% owned almost universally, 50% owned on FanDuel, 50% on DraftKings. So he was an absolute anchor to a lot of lineups that got dragged down really, really, really early. And it gets it gets worse. This slate was wild, man. So thoughts out to Trae Young here, but at 9K on DraftKings, he got you 12 fantasy points, got you 11.4 at 9.4 on FanDuel. Not what you want, not what you want. And then value play of the night, same game there. Miami Atlanta actually produced in the end of the night a lot of what you needed to win a tournament. Tyler Hero, 4,900 on DraftKings, and 5,200 on FanDuel. I don't know why that's off centered. Let's fix that. Man, we are professional here. He scored a lot of fantasy points. Why is that? What didn't I don't know. I'm tripping. Anyway, over 40 fantasy points on both sites. He was coming off the bench. This was Jimmy Butler's season debut for Miami. And Jimmy Butler said that it was Tyler Tuesday, and expect Tyler Tuesdays going forward. So hashtag DFS narrative, keep that going forward. But he was a fantastic play. A lot of people went and played Kendrick Nunn, which was an okay play, all things considered, because Trae Young did what he did, and then we'll talk about the shock of the night. But if you play Tyler Hero, you had a leg up on the field and had a great shot to get to the top if you also faded Trae Young. And our shock of the night, Luka Doncic. And the reason I got Luka as the shock, usually the shock of the night is somebody I wasn't on that puts up a lot of points. There's somebody that I was on that didn't put up many points. And if you would have told me Luka only had 27 DraftKings points and 26.3 FanDuel points, I would have been like, oh, how much did the Mavs lose by? Well, they actually won. They won by 3, and it was a very balanced team effort from a fantasy standpoint. And Luka Doncic in 32 minutes got 12 real points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 3 for 12 from the field. So I was a little bit shocked that he did what he did here, and a little bit shocked that they were able to still win the game. I mean, even Porzingis didn't do great. Other great values from that team, while he kind of underperformed. Jalen Brunson, 28 DKP, 16 minutes of play. And Tim Hardaway, 24 and 23 minutes. And Maxi Kleber, 32 and a quarter DKP. You definitely could have made a case to be a value play of the night. He was 3,700 on DraftKings. He played 30 minutes, shot 6 for 12, had 7 rebounds, 3 blocks. He's a block machine. The main reason that Kleber maybe raised an eyebrow is because this is the game Dwight Powell came back, and a lot of people in circles that I knew were less excited to play Kleber with Dwight Powell back. So a lot of weird stuff happened on a 3-game slate. You guys want some story time? Holy cow. Was this a rough night for me? Let me grab some water. I got beat up last night, guys. Absolutely beat up from lineups on FanDuel and DraftKings. And let's talk about DraftKings, because this is where it really got out of it. Sometimes in DFS and NBA DFS, stuff's just gonna happen that you laugh at later, and it is what it is. It happens. First of all, 3-game short slates spaced out like that, never my favorite. You play light on those nights. But I probably had 60 to 70% Anthony Davis going into the night. It was easily my favorite Laker play. And easily seemed like he had the highest floor ceiling ratio on the slate. And I didn't want to have that much Trae Young, but it was a short slate, and I just figured he had a high enough floor. So I ended up with a whole lot of Trae, like over 60% Trae Young. And I also had like 50% Luka. At the end of the night, Luka versus Trae Young wasn't. I know Luka scored 10 more than Trae Young, so like I played Trae over Luka. Honestly, the 9K point guard play was probably LeBron James. He got 37 and a half, and at 9K, when you have 3 of the 9K point guards, the guy that scores the most is probably the best play. He got 37, not even a fantastic play. I think I saw him in second place in my tournament. But But yeah, man, almost 60+% Anthony Davis. I had all that Trae Young that got um, shattered early. Now, having that much Trae Young wasn't as much of a death blow as you might seem in retrospect because he was 50% owned. And then as the night progressed, Luka was 50% owned. So it is what it is. That 10-point difference wasn't going to guarantee loss of profit. What really got me was the Anthony Davis news. As I said earlier, I moved all of my center Anthony Davis on DraftKings into Jokic because that news came out about 10, 15 minutes before the Denver game, or at least that's when I got it. So I just felt like that was the right, responsible decision to get Jokic in there just in case AD got ruled out. And then I was preparing all of my AD in the forward spot, switching that to LeBron James just to make sure I had all that set up. And if I needed to change anything else from the Denver game, I could do that. And I left myself over 20% AD in the util spot. I think I have a much better night with 60% AD than I do with 20% AD. So it was just a disaster night, man. Everything was going wrong. Trae Young, bam. Luka, bam. My value plays that I was high on, Quinn Cook and Brandon Clark, didn't really do a whole lot. So holy yikes. But the AD stuff really let us down. And it sure does feel like it. It feels like every season we get a couple of AD questionable games and he goes out there and goes bananas. So, whew. I'm moving forward. I'm moving onward and upward, man. I hope you guys crushed it last night. In a roundabout way, last night's a great case for those of you that play FanDuel and don't like late swap because you don't like the post lock chess match. You're tinkering with lineups all because of this AD news. So if you're on FanDuel, you're like, I didn't have to worry about it. Now, we say that now because he played and went off. But if he got scratched, it would be 30% of the FanDuel field that would wake up this morning wanting to move the DraftKings. So that's how it is. Also had a fun game of World Series last night, man. It's a great time to be a sports fan. We got a whole lot of games tonight. A whole lot of games. In this video, I'm going to do my best to slightly preview each game and talk about a few names that stick out. Because this afternoon, we're going to dive even deeper over on the Twitch stream. If you guys are new to the channel, every afternoon, I go live at twitch.tv/Gundacker99, usually with a co-host or two. And we chop the slate down even further. We can have a little bit more fun. We have the interactive chat going on. If you follow the channel for the last couple years, you've seen the live streams here. We used to do them on YouTube. Things have changed with the YouTube live streaming platforms and the options. And as I've grown my platform on Twitch, I've decided to go ahead and bring the live stream brand over there for my basketball content while still providing videos like this on the YouTube channel. And you guys have been incredibly supportive in making that change with me. In week one, I probably averaged around 45 of concurrent live viewers, which on YouTube the last couple years was always between 200 and 300 for live viewers. So to have a quarter of you guys take the switch with me, it means a lot more than you guys think from a analytic standpoint. From a channel that has a couple thousand subscribers, that's actually incredible to me. That we can start on week one and then we can build on that, and maybe in a month or two, we're matching or even beating our former account over there. So if you guys want to be part of that, go to twitch.tv/Gundacker99. If you don't have a Twitch account, make one in just a couple seconds. You can link your Facebook account for quicker registration, or just make one. There's several content creators and DFS masterminds that are also on Twitch. I know Al Smizzle. Al Smizzle's the GOAT. He has a great Twitch platform. Manny, Laura has a great Twitch platform, and there's several others that even have YouTube presence that are also establishing the market over there for daily fantasy, and Twitch is just a powerful platform. So go join us over there this afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. We'll be live, locked, loaded, talking about tonight's slate. seeing what kind of news has come out, and then my co-host is a very contrarian, hot take mind guy, but you need that in GPPs. You might say I'm right versus him 70-30, but hey, that 30% could pay off in tournaments. So it's a fun show usually. Me and him going at it. So be there, 3 p.m. Eastern. Let's talk about tonight. Bunch of games. Chicago Bulls at the Cleveland Cavaliers. First game on the docket. 215.5 is our total for this one. A 2-point spread in favor of the visiting Chicago Bulls. I think we're going to be dealing with two teams that are, if we pull up the team tab here in the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet, thus far into the season, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been bottom 10 of the league in pace. That matches where they were last year. They were one of the slowest paced teams. And then the Chicago Bulls, I'm not sure what to make of them because they've had a bunch of weird games. They've had fast-paced games against Memphis, and then they face like the Knicks and whatnot. But right now they're listed as league average. So this might be a negative game, or at least at best an average game, probably an average minus game in pace. So I don't really want to go crazy with Zach LaVine if it's not, a super fast-paced game. That's where I really like to target him for upside. Lauri Markkanen, 7,600 is interesting. And then Wendell Carter Jr., another name that I would be targeting from the Chicago Bulls. Kobe White is also, somebody you might put in your back pocket early on. But I don't have warm and fuzzies on most of the Bulls early on for tournaments. Kevin Love's 8,200 on Cleveland. Woe is me here, but this might be the spot I finally throw him in my player pool as more than a long shot tier 3. 40.5 against Orlando, 55.75 against Indiana, and then 39 fantasy points against Milwaukee. Milwaukee was a game where I kind of talked about it in previous videos where I thought we were going to finally start seeing a little bit more Kevin Love shoot the 3 ball, and he shot 10 of them. He just has to do more against some of those stronger teams. But his rebounds have been elite, and right now he's a walking double-double. I'm looking for the north side of 40 fantasy points as a starter point at 8,200. Certainly think he can get it here. How much more upside is in his price point after that? Well, you can drop 50 plus, and I think he falls kind of through the cracks because there's going to be some higher end centers that I think a lot of people might want to use as a foundation. And just generally speaking, we've got a couple studs on the slate: Giannis Antetokounmpo, James Harden, Embiid, Towns, Westbrook. Curry's in a high total game at home, so there's a lot of ways that salary gets lost, and 88K for a Cleveland Cavalier player just doesn't come to fruition. And then Tristan Thompson, another cat I would keep in my back pocket, 6,500. Doesn't feel like a great price on him, but he hasn't really let you down at this price point thus far. 33, 35, 33 minutes in his first 3 games. He's been a double-double, and he's been taking way more shots than we're accustomed for Tristan Thompson, and that's not a bad thing. Lot of high percentage shots since, he's not going to leave the paint much. He did shoot a pair of threes against Indiana, but here's a guy that might have a shot at 40-plus fantasy points at 6,500. We like to exploit price points as much as possible. I think there's certainly a little bit of meat on a bone in this matchup for Tristan Thompson up against the Bulls front court. Wendell Carter on that same note did just show us a nice upside game for the Bulls. I don't know that I get to Wendell Carter with a high level of confidence. He does have a Q tag on him, but it's listed as probable. 28, 23, 27 minutes for him. Last game, 44.5. I think that was a perfect storm. 20-10 double-double. It's a volatile play. Moving on, Orlando Magic hosting the New York Knicks. 208.5 spread here. 208.5 OU. 9-point spread in favor of the home team, Orlando Magic. This is definitely a game that'll be super low in pace, and I've been a proponent that the Orlando Magic defense is probably one of the better defenses that no one knows about, right? No one really talks about the Orlando Magic in 2019, but their defense is pretty good. They're holding opponents to under 100 points a game on average this season. So they've been really scrappy. The New York Knicks are a team I tend to avoid just because I don't like dealing with Dave Fizdale and his uncertainty. And sometimes that's going to burn me, but on a slate this big, I just don't know that I get there. With that said, big time asterisk here to this statement. There are some injuries and outs and doubtfuls for the Knicks side that will probably lure people into playing a couple of Knicks players. First of all, let's just start with the point guards here. Dennis Smith Jr., he's listed as questionable, but he did not fly with the team to Orlando. So he hasn't officially been rolled out, but he's not with the team or was not with the team to begin with. He might, on his own head out there, but I don't think we should expect that. His stepmother passed away, so he's been out for grieving that. His teammates have taken to that. We saw Mitchell Robinson write for DSJ on his headband the other night. So at this point, we would have to list DSJ closer to out than in. Elfrid Payton, potential revenge game spot. He's got a strained right hamstring, and he's been ruled out for this game. So this really shortens the bench, the line of players. At point guard, theoretically, RJ Barrett, likely the biggest beneficiary of this. And then you can start talking about long shots of Frank Ntilikina, Kadeem Allen, guys like that. The only guy at point guard, and this is just me because I hate playing Knicks. The only guy at point guard, or really the only guy I would take advantage or try to take advantage of this spot is RJ Barrett. 6,500 for him. 40 minutes against Chicago, 37 against Boston, 36, 37. Seems like he's going to get his run. Seems like they're trying to get what they drafted for, get him the reps. He's taking shots. He had 15 rebounds against the Chicago Bulls. That's probably not going to happen here against the Magic. But you see he's doing enough of everything to be an okay play, fine play. He really can't get that many more minutes with El Fal, right? He really can't. I mean, he's been playing 37, 36 minutes anyway. I think I'm going to stick to my rules here. I personally don't play Knicks, and I think I can better support my stance on that because if I think the Knicks are going to be trendy, chalky, I'm already scared that Fizdale can pull the rug out from underneath any one of these players. And if I think I can leverage against that alone, it's a plus. But hey, this is the Orlando Magic. They're not a bad defense. Is RJ Barrett gonna blow 30? Is he gonna blow 35 fantasy points out of the water with like a 45 to make me really regret it? He could, but I think I'm gonna take my chances. The New York Knicks front court has been a carousel of who's the better play. Last game it was Bobby Portis who had an incredible revenge game. 28 real points, 11 rebounds, shot 4 for 4 from downtown on 14 shot attempts, 2 blocks. Big time game from him, dropped a 50 burger. We've seen Julius Randle be a guy, and we've seen Mitchell Robinson be a guy. That's a carousel of I don't know who's going to do what. That, again, I just probably avoid from the Knicks. And on the Magic side, if we wanted to stretch ourselves to playing the Magic here, maybe Vooch is somebody at 8K that still has 40-plus point potential. Maybe Evan Fournier or DJ Augustine's interesting. Frank Ntilikina was not a high-usage scoring guard. RJ Barrett's still a young gun, right? Might turn the ball over a little bit more. So far, Evan Fournier's averaging a steal per game. Basically, all but DJ Augustine from the Magic thus far averaging a steal per game. Like I said, scrappy defense. So maybe take some long shots on some Magic players for defensive peripherals, maybe more so on FanDuel. But because of the pace and because of how big the slate, I just don't see myself prioritizing anyone from this game, but hey, it could change between now and 3 p.m. at twitch.tv/Gundacker99. Philadelphia 76ers hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves, 225 total, 6.5 point spread. Favor the home team, 76ers. Karl-Anthony Towns is under 10K after a pretty decent start to the season where we've seen him drop 49, 82, 73. And I think this is a pretty great visual representation of his floor, median, ceiling. Is this floor 50? I think so, because of his usage, because of his skill set, because of his ability to not just be a inside the paint kind of guy. 11 threes, 7 threes, 11 3 shot attempts on top of his other peripherals. I think at 9-9 though, this isn't the best matchup in the world. Joel Embiid and the 76ers are going to be a pretty decent defense all the way around. And Joel Embiid in the paint is pretty decent defensively. And Al Horford might chase him on the perimeter. Even Joel Embiid might get out there. So I think Cat on FanDuel, 11.8. I don't see myself getting there. 9.9 on DraftKings. He makes an incredible DraftKings debate on whether or not one, that's too cheap for his role usage and minutes, and two, if his ownership might be too low for his usage minutes and what he can do. The short answer for me is probably no in single entries or 20 entry. But would you have 0 Cat in 100 lines, 150 lines? We'll see. I don't think the field's gonna land there. I think we got a lot more household 9-10K players on the docket tonight. With that said, in this very same game, Joel Embiid is 10K. Just had a massive game against the Atlanta Hawks. He's $100 more than Karl-Anthony Towns. Towns, of course, somebody I don't think is going to lock down anyone on defense. Embiid, 43 and 66 in 23 and 33 minutes. 23 minutes against Boston. Had 5 fouls. Gotten big time foul trouble there. It was a lopsided game anyway. More than a point per minute type of guy, and he tends to have some narrative games. He likes to talk some trash and dig at other high profile centers. He sat out against Andre Drummond, so he's already maybe catches some slack on that. So we'll see if Embiid shows up and shows out here against the T-Wolves. Medium total here. I definitely think at 10K individually in and of himself is a price that he can pay off a lot. And then Ben Simmons at 8,700 as well. He just seems to get there. Even when he starts rough, he still just seems to get there. At Atlanta, he played 38 minutes, 6 for 11. The rebounds and assists were super low, and I don't think that's I don't want to say that's sustainable, but I don't think that's something that I'm going to get used to. You could argue that maybe it is, because Josh Richardson, Embiid, and Simmons all together could, be a spiky game flow of, who's ball handling and who's not. But I think at 8,700, there still is an everyday chance at a triple-double until further notice. So at 45 to 50 fantasy points is a realistic range of outcome in the realm of possibility. 8,700, though, you absolutely need that. But he'll probably continue to be kind of a low-owned type of player here. I'm probably not going to go too crazy with any other T-Wolves this early in the morning, but we'll see. Celtics hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. Potential preview of the Eastern Conference Finals. 223 total with a 2.5 point spread in favor of the visiting Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo at 10.8K on DraftKings, 11.6 on FanDuel. 29, 37, 28 minutes in this short season. 41, 71, 70. Ironically, the 41 came against the quote-unquote worst opponent, but he still almost got you a triple-double. Kind of like Jokic last night. Jokic had a perfect 10 triple-double, and it was just not super relevant for fantasy. Giannis, of course, always in play, especially in games that we kind of project to be close. high profile. He's on national TV. I think the pricing is probably right early in the season. Giannis is still somebody that we could see before long at 11.5, 12K. Not at all a matchup I love and adore, but I think we'll see high minutes for both team starters, and more minutes equals more opportunity. And this, as long as Giannis can stay out of foul trouble, this should be a spot for him to outmatch anyone on the Celtics side. Enes Kanter already rolled out for the Celtics here. Watch Daniel Tice; he's got a Q tag on him still. Has missed a game. Jaylen Brown at 5,500 would be somebody I'm keeping in my back pocket as a mid-tier stocking stuffer for the Celtics. 27 minutes against the Knicks. That was night 2 of a back-to-back, and the score was kind of lopsided. The night prior, he had 38 minutes, and because of that, got to 46.75 fantasy points. And really, in 2 games so far, he hasn't killed you at this price point. In Game 1, big-time foul trouble. Game 2, maybe got a little lopsided there on a back-to-back. This is a real shot for Jaylen Brown to play another 35 to 40 minutes. It really is. And he has been involved enough offensively, maybe even more involved than people thought. And, the Celtics just paid the man. Maybe he's going to get 15, 20 shots a game, 14 shots against the Knicks, 20 against Toronto. And then Philly was just a bad matchup for backcourts. Josh Richardson, scrappy defensively. Ben Simmons, that's just a really good defense. Went 3 for 6 in that game. I think we're going to see more so the 14 to 20 plus shot attempt Jaylen Brown. Not that this is a great matchup for wings and guards, but the minutes kind of start to offset the matchup just because volume has to come from somebody. And I think Jason Tatum is another option with that same argument. The minutes would be there for him. This Bucks team matches up defensively pretty well against the length and speed of a guy like Jason Tatum. So I think Jaylen Brown is just going to have to be the guy. Him and Kemba trying to cut to the rack and get some shots in. The way to score against the Bucks so far, really just has him. 118 points per game allowed for the Bucks. A bunch of threes, 44 points per game from 3 so far. Is that real? I don't know if I'm banking on Jaylen Brown to sink a bunch of trays. I mean, 5'7", 2. He's still somebody that's like, the minutes are going to be there for him. Again, I'm not going to walk to the end of the earth to jam Celtics in my lineup. I will have some Giannis for sure. For sure. And then I would like to leverage that a little bit. Kemba's not a comfortable click right now, but 8,300, there is an argument for sure that he can get you there. 40 and 51 in his last 2 games from a fantasy standpoint. Another guy that probably gets you closer to 20 shots than not. And in a neutral game, probably get you 35 to 38 minutes. So I can see it. No warm and fuzzies. Moving forward, Brooklyn Nets hosting Indiana Pacers. Here we go. Man, I'm starting to get dry now. Pulled out the bottle of water. My bad. Pacers. Watching the status of Jeremy Lamb. He's missed the last 2 games for Indiana. If he plays, let me get the injury report before I overreact here. Jeremy Lamb, hip, was a full participant in Tuesday's practice and is likely to be cleared for Wednesday's game. So it sounds like he's good to go. His backup, Edmund Sumner, sore right hand, listed as questionable. All right, so if he plays, just thinking out loud, you might hear the field say, oh, Malcolm Brogdon isn't as great of a play now that Jeremy Lamb is back. I don't know that we have enough sample size to suggest that as fact. I really don't, because they played 1 game together, game number 1. Malcolm Brogdon still got 45 fantasy points. It's not like his shot volume has gone way up without Jeremy Lamb. Only 3 games of sample size, 2 without Lamb, 1 with. But 13 shot attempts with Lamb. He has been a pure point guard. Double-digit assists in every game thus far. He's just been a really good point guard. So I think I could see the field I'm not gonna say mistakenly fade Brogdon, but maybe fade Brogdon for the wrong reasons. Because I think regardless, it's a fine matchup against the Brooklyn Nets. Nets have been allowing over 120 points per game thus far. And we've seen opposing point guards, especially Ja Morant, have a great day against Kyrie Irving. So I think at 7,300, Brogdon might get some. I don't know. I don't trust it because Lamb's back. I'm gonna play some Malcolm Brogdon. And in that same breath, maybe you make a case for Jeremy Lamb at 5K. In that first game against Detroit, 26 minutes, 20 fantasy points. If that 26 minutes becomes 30 to 30 plus minutes, we definitely know Jeremy Lamb can be a stat stuffing guy. Does a little bit of everything on top of shooting the basketball. Maybe they take it easy on him because of his hip, but if he's a full participant in practice, I think he might be ready to go. TJ Warren in his first couple games look like this guy might not be touchable on this Pacers team. Put up 12 against Detroit, 13 against Cleveland, and then the same game against Detroit, 38 minutes, all of a sudden he decided he want to take 20 plus shots and get 5 steals. If we take away those 5 steals, I think TJ Warren kind of becomes an average play again, especially on FanDuel where that's 18 points, fantasy points. So I think I'm gonna fall back a little bit, but I do like this Brooklyn matchup very much so. And then so far, the Brooklyn center flow chart has been a thing. Brooklyn allowing 30 plus real points a game to opposing centers and 20 plus rebounds a game to opposing centers. So it's been a fine matchup to target with bigs. So both Sabonis and Miles Turner are in play. I am waiting for some time for some instances where Kenny Atkinson decides to kind of flop and see what DeAndre Orton, what the heck, RKO, DeAndre Jordan can do. He started the last game for the Nets, and that's kind of what we saw or heard from Kenny Atkinson before the season started, was that he was going to play the hot hand. So Jared Allen could start, Jordan could start. I think that's just kind of something we're going to have to fly by ear beforehand, but I don't know that it necessarily matters to me because I'm probably not super stoked on playing DeAndre Jordan or Jared Allen. With that said, Indiana Pacers aren't that far behind the Brooklyn Nets in points allowed, so it could just be a feast fest down in the paint. But I don't think we can bank on 30 minutes of DJ or Jared Allen regardless. So we'll see what happens there. But Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis become uncomfortable clicks at their price point, but certainly we've seen Sabonis have the potential to put up 40 plus fantasy points as a mid-long range shooter and a guy that can get you peripherals to boot. 18 shot attempts against Detroit, 41 fantasy points. They shot 40 in 2 of those games, and then the game he didn't was a game against the Cavs in which the Cavs, Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson just went full-on elite in rebounding. He had only 5 rebounds in that game. I think you get your double-double here, and if you think he gets 20-plus real points, then you think there's a chance he gets you 40-plus fantasy points. So Sabonis certainly in play for me. I do think this is a game that feels stackable, but the Pacers seem like they have a higher predictive value for minute projections. And then if you're going to run it back with the Brooklyn Nets here, I think first and foremost you're going to consider Kyrie Irving. The Nets the Nets are letting him go, man. 27 shot attempts in that overtime game against Memphis, 19 and 33. I think at 8,700 on a slate like this, I'm going to really want to squeeze every ounce of 50 fantasy points out. 45 wouldn't be the worst. I don't mind running some Brogdon versus Irving lineups so far, but Kyrie at home certainly in my player pool, and I think you guys might agree with that there. Any other Nets that would make the cut for me? Probably no one as a high tier. We might dive a little deeper later and find some secondary supplementary plays, but as always, if I'm missing guys that you like as a sneaky play, leave a comment. I'll check all the comments before I go live on Twitch this afternoon and shout you out if I see a really good, some really good suggestions. Raptors hosting the Detroit Pistons. Next game on the docket, 211.5 is our total for this one. 8.5 point spread favor the home team. Toronto Raptors. Pistons dealing with Reggie Jackson likely out again. And then the Raptors at home have been playing their starters more minutes, and when they get done playing those minutes, they play some more minutes. It's an incredible rotation Nick Nurse has put out there to start the season. It really is. I think the Raptors are going to be a fine defensive team. I don't think I'm going to be super stoked to play any Pistons. I think Drummond at 9,400 definitely has a case, but I'm not in love with this matchup. I don't think I'm going crazy with any of these Pistons players. The two guys that might be brought to the forefront of a argument is Derrick Rose, who's 5,800. You're looking for 30-plus fantasy points. Played 26 minutes against Indiana. Coach said that he doesn't think Rose is ready to play deep minutes, so even without Reggie Jackson, don't expect those minutes. What we do expect is a high amount of volume and shot attempts in those 26 minutes. And in 3 of the 4 games so far, we've seen Rose exceed 30 fantasy points. At 5,800, you need him to do that. It's a risky proposition. It's a risky matchup. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention him. And then other than that, I'm looking on the Raptor side. Literally every Raptor is in play for me today. And I'm heavily cautious, and I warn a lot of people about overreacting to DVP this early in the season. But Detroit against the point guard has been money. It really has. And Kyle Lowry could have, a matchup paved in gold right now. He's 7-4 on DraftKings. Look at these minutes played. 38 minutes against Orlando, 41 fantasy points. 34 against Chicago. This was a blowout on night 2 of a back-to-back. He still played 34 minutes, and, essentially a point per minute. The night before, 40 minutes against Boston. And then opening night, it went to overtime, but still 45 minutes. There's a chance if this game's neutral, Kyle Lowry's playing 40 minutes in what has been so far the best matchup for opposing point guards, the Detroit Pistons. So Lowry at 7-4 just might be the freest 40 fantasy points on the entire slate. And might just be the highest floor. You could argue maybe his ceiling is not incredible, but 20-plus real points in 3 of his 4 games. And like I said, the one down game from a fantasy perspective was night 2 of a back-to-back, and it was a blowout. Kyle Lowry's a great play. He is a great play. And with that said, everyone on this team could be a great play. Van Vliet's been playing deep minutes. He's 6-1. I'm looking for the north side of 30 fantasy points. He's done that in all but 1 game thus far, and that's against the Boston defense. High minutes for him. Decent shot volume for him. Really shocking play here, but OG Anunoby has worked his way to 5K, and he might be underpriced, man. 40 and 38.5 his last 2 games. His defensive peripherals have been really high lately. 2 blocks and 5 steals against Orlando, and then 4 blocks and 1 steal against Chicago. Maybe those are not sustainable day to day, but all of a sudden, OG Anunoby is taking some shots here, and again, other than the Chicago game, night 2 of back-to-back blowout, he's played 38 minutes. So these Raptors guys may not be like savory in a point per minute standpoint, but they're playing a lot of minutes, and they're giving us just like 40-plus point floors, 30-plus point floors. And are we just going to be stubborn and not go out there and take them or get some exposure to them? Pascal Siakam, same song and dance, 36 minutes in every game. That hasn't been a blowout or night 2 of a back-to-back. I think 40-plus fantasy points is very reasonable here. And as great as Kyle Lowry's matchup has been against point guards, so has power forwards against Detroit. We've talked about what Sabonis has done. Sabonis has put up 40-plus fantasy points in both of his games against the Detroit front court. Tobias Harris put up 43 and 36 minutes. John Collins, 40 and 31 minutes. I think Lowry and Siakam are a fantastic correlation handcuff, and they just play in deep minutes here. They just are. The only knock here would be is if you thought this game blew out, and even then, I'm not convinced that we get less than 35 minutes of Raptors here. So even if it does blow out, it's probably a really nice cash game look here for the Raptors. But I'm not that stoked to muscle out any Detroit Pistons in a short entry, like a single entry or 20 entry. In the same breath that Cat might be low owned at his price in his matchup, Drummond could be low owned at his price in his matchup. Put up 44.5 against Indiana, 38 minutes that game. I do think that Reggie Jackson being out is a net negative for Drummond, but I don't think that's enough for me to say that Drummond's not in play here. He had 18 rebounds against the Pacers. This matchup, probably an average 15 rebound spot if he's having an average game with these minutes. You need 50 plus to even get out of bed with on this slate from a 9K center. So it's up to you guys. I'm just thinking out loud. His ownership's probably gonna be lower than what it should be without Blake, but the matchup's not great. But give me all the Raptors. Give me all the Raptors. OKC hosting the Portland Trailblazers. Blazers a road favorite by just one. The Thunder have averaged just over 100 points per game, but have averaged just about 101 points per game allowed. And this was something I was kind of flirting with the other day on the live stream. Are the Thunder the Orlando Magic of the Western Conference? What I mean by that is this just a really underrated defense that no one's giving love to? Like, you think about the Thunder and you're thinking about, the team's in rebuild mode. They don't have Westbrook, Paul George, yada, yada, yada. They might have assembled some scrappy defenders. Chris Paul, even in his elder years, can be scrappy defensively. He's averaging almost a steal per game. SGA coming from that Clippers team, maybe under the wing of Patrick Beverley, picked up a couple of tips and tricks. Terrence Ferguson has been a decent defender. Gallo, Steven Adams definitely has been a plus defender at the 5. Opposing teams, and we're talking some high octane offenses, at least in the last 2 games. Golden State put up 92, and the Rockets, with all of their firepower, put up 116. So Washington Wizards under 100, and then the Utah game 100. And Utah, I'm not going to overcredit them for the Utah game because Utah does play slower and whatnot. But I do think this Thunder defense could be underrated here. So 223 total might be a little on the on the side. Zach Collins going to be out again, it looks like, for this one. We saw Mario Hezonja become a very trendy, chalky play against the Spurs. Tonight he comes to us at 4K. He's probably priced a little bit more appropriately. I don't know how much more than 20 plus fantasy points we'll get. And I don't even know that, looking back on it, he got that much of a minute boost without Zach Collins because his most minutes played was just that Dallas game. Everything else, 18, 19 minutes. So maybe not a spot that I need to flirt too much with this Blazers value. On a slate this big, there's going to be some value plays that just open up. It just will be. So I don't know if this is the spot. Damian Lillard has been an animal. His 4th quarter against the Spurs was a masterpiece. He's put up 50-plus fantasy points in 3 of the 4 games thus far. And much like Kyle Lowry, he's playing a whole heck of a lot of minutes. On paper, the DVP hasn't been great. But this guy's going to be a shot volume guy, 20-plus real shot attempts in all games this season. He's going to get enough shots at the line, and he's going to pull up and chuck from 3. And that's just who Damian Lillard is. And if he only has 35 in the 3rd quarter, don't flip out if it's a close game, because in the 4th quarter, it's Dame time. He's going to do his thing. What you also might want to take note of is the rebounds and assists have been there. Maybe too many rebounds in that Spurs game, but they have been there. So even a little added benefit, some added cushioning, padding for his already high usage and potential high floor spot. SGA 6,900 on DraftKings. Giggity. I think I've said it in the last couple of OKC slates. This guy could be an 8K player, and we're so used to paying 4K for him from his Clipper days that we're just not clicking his name at 6 and 7K. But in the end of December, if he's 8.5K, are we going to hate ourselves for not playing him when he was 6.9K? You know what I'm saying? 40 plus fantasy points essentially in his last 3 games. You know, he missed it by less than a point against Golden State. Was a blowout, mind you. So if he gets his normal minutes there, you know, he's on track for 40 plus. So I absolutely think SGA is likely going to lead this team in shot attempts. And I think he's a great correlation play to maybe some Damian Lillard exposure. You know, throw some SGA in there against him. Gallo and Steven Adams are intriguing, but neither one of them rub my belly the right way. Steven Adams does have a Q tag on him, and I definitely think we need to keep an eye on this. I'll get you the official report on that. OKC right here. He suffered a left knee contusion in that game against the Rockets. We'll see if he plays, man. He's been kind of a tough Australian, or is he? You know what I'm saying? Like he's a pretty tough dude. If he was out at 6K, is he New Zealand? Is he from New Zealand, or am I? He might be New Zealand, and I'm racist. Yeah, they're close enough. He asked to be taken out of that game against the Rockets. So as tough as he is, for him to ask to be taken out of the game is enough of an eyebrow raise that we should be watching his news maybe later this afternoon after shooting around. Because if he were to be out, Nerlens Noel at 3,300, while the matchup maybe not great, would probably elevate as a potential value play. And, you know, if the minutes are going to be there for him, I hate to give up a center spot. I really do. But he would be somebody we'd have to consider early on as a potential value play. And looking at other potential bigs in this Thunder front court that might benefit from that, I think he's the main one that sticks out. So I kind of have a feeling that Steven Adams is a tough dude, and he'll be better after a couple days rest, some ice. But we'll see. And then Hassan Whiteside without Zach Collins. I hate playing centers against the Thunder the last couple years, but he's under 7K, 6,700. He's the cheapest he's been all season. His minutes have been 26 and under. The Dallas game, he fouled out, and that was the game that Zach Collins dislocated his shoulder. And then the San Antonio game, let me pull a popcorn machine, because we know Whiteside's somebody that opposing coaches can hack. You ever heard of hack a Whiteside? And this was a one-possession game, and Greg Popovich basically invented the hack-a-shack, right? So let's go look at popcorn machine just to see if maybe, just maybe, Whiteside was strategically benched at the end of this game. Son Whiteside, he played 4 minutes in the middle of the fourth. Yeah, I guess not. I guess he just doesn't get 30 plus minutes. Anthony Tolliver started that game. He played almost 30 minutes that game. Would he be somebody that anyone would consider at 3,200 potential shot at near 30 minutes? I think you'd have to take a shot at the minute equals money debate. Maybe Stotts can clear this up as the day goes by. And then Rodney Hood, I don't think is the craziest play either. I did have a piece of him against the Spurs. 1834, 1820. At 3,800 as a stocking stuffer, you know, these 18s likely don't win you a tournament, but, you know, he starts hitting some shots here. If that guard defense and Chris Paul and SGA start annoying one of Dame or CJ enough, maybe Hood gets there. Again, just some stocking stuffer ideas in the back pocket. I'm hoping Terry Stotts Maybe if they do a shoot around, will give us some better ideas of what we might expect tonight. Rockets at the Wizards. This game has an extremely high total of 230.5, 8-point spread in favor of the visiting Houston Rockets. For as much slack as Russell Westbrook got the other night against the Thunder, in terms of like if you live sweat basketball games, I don't know why you would stress yourself out like that. But he had a terrible first quarter, and he slow grinded his way to 50 fantasy points. But at the end of the day, he got 50-plus fantasy points, and so far he hasn't shown us an ability to get less than 50. And at 9,600, I just don't think that price is where it should be, where it needs to be. And here against the Wizards, I don't think it's enough. I don't think this is a spot where he starts getting under 50. Almost triple-doubled in that OKC game. 16, 17 field goal attempts in every game thus far. Not taking ridiculous three-point shots like he has been notorious for in his OKC days. He knows he can pass the ball to a James Harden, a PJ Tucker, and if they need threes, they can also put Eric Gordon on the court. So I think his shot efficiency is going to go up this season. And he's just been a beast. So 9,600 for Russell Westbrook, yes, please. Yeah, I'll have some of that. And then James Harden, only $500 more. He's had 2 rough games to start the season, and then really in the first game wasn't even that rough. He's had 2 50-plus bombs to start the season. An uncharacteristic 40.5 fantasy points against New Orleans, but he still shot 29 times. Just had a really bad shooting night, and we said James Harden is not going to be a 27% from the field shooter. He is just not. So this is an incredible spot to get back to continue to play him. I don't think his 50 is as lucrative, just for penny pinching, but James Harden can quickly turn those 50s into 60s and maybe even 70s. And right now I have him as a soft projection of 36 minutes, and the algorithm spit back almost 60 fantasy points. So absolutely love the Westbrook Harden handcuff again. I think if you put them together at less than 20K for as long as we get that option, that'll be 100 points to start your lineup with. It just will. So I like that a lot. You can run it back with some Bradley Beal if you wanted to. He's almost 9K. There's a lot of juice at the 9K area for guards and shooting guards. So it's not something I'm lock buttoning. Rui Hachimura is a little bit intriguing here. 25 minutes for him is what I put in the soft projection sweep. 38, 35 minutes in his last 2 games. Basically gotten a shot at 30 fantasy points. That's what you need. But this match should be fast-paced enough and a lot of shot chucks that guys like Hachimura just will have a greater opportunity than usual. And then looking at this Wizards team, usually when I do my first run on the spreadsheet, I don't go crazy with the bench. Isaiah Thomas probably plays. I don't think I'm running to play him. I think we got to look at the Wizards and realize they need scoring and they likely need 3-point shooting. So Bradley Beal, easily the first guy we're looking at. Is Davis Bertans somebody off the bench? 3,700. He's probably one of their sharpshooters that you bank on here. 5 3-point attempts against San Antonio in a revenge game. 9 against OKC. Tough matchup. At 3,700, man, if he's going to have a shot at 30 minutes, no matter what, he seems like he's game script proof, right? Like if you think they get blown out, he gets some run. He's basically gotten us a shot at 30 minutes a game. And give me some Bertans here. You know, it might be a scoring dependent value play, but they got to score in this matchup. They just do. So I don't mind Bertans as a value play from this one. And then Bradley Beal, like I said, I might be a little lower. Bradley Beal is a fine play. Like you probably can't fit him in. You know, I like to correlate, you know, some plays sometimes. I don't know how easily you can get a Harden, Westbrook, Beal line, but Beal's gonna play minutes. 32 minutes against that Dallas game, he got ejected. 35 and 38 minutes in the following games, and that was on a back-to-back. The 50 fantasy points against San Antonio seems a little bit more atypical. I've talked about how I think OKC is a scrappy defense. San Antonio so far has not been a scrappy defense, and he shot just 30% and still got to 50 fantasy points. Man, if if we don't think James Harden's going to be a low percentage shooter, I don't think Bradley Beal is either, and he's certainly going to chuck three. So 8,900 for Bradley Beal might be a cheaper opportunity at 50 fantasy points than most as well. So we got a lot of 9K area options in the guard spot for DK. Absolutely. Kings hosting the Charlotte Hornets, 224.5 total. The Sacramento Kings favored by 7. Hornets have been one of the worst defenses in basketball. A faster paced, bad defense is what we love. It's the recipe for the Pelicans fantasy juiciness. PJ Washington, maybe Dwayne Bacon. Really, there's just so much goodness here with the Hornets. If they're going to be all pretty underpriced. Devontae Graham, even, I'm curious with. He's 5,300 on DraftKings, and he's been someone, even off the bench, we have seen be just great. 30-plus fantasy points in all but one of his games. That one came against the Los Angeles Lakers, where he shot 1 for 13. So he still took double-digit shot attempts. If he makes 4 to 5 more of those shots on an average night, 40 to 50%, which is what we've seen thus far, that 20 becomes the 30 pretty quickly. So I like Devontae Graham. I like this game as a cheap game stack. I really do. You could still take shots on Rozier. I'm not gonna walk to the edge of the earth for that one because the earth is flat. Dwayne, no. What if I just started throwing conspiracy theories? Yeah, okay. Dwayne Bacon, 4,900, 30 minutes is what I wrote as a soft projection for him. And then PJ Washington, man, it just feels like this guy is gonna be a fantasy play sooner than later. 31 minutes against the Clippers, had 4 fouls. That was night 2 of a back-to-back. But a lot of these neutral games, or even non-neutral games, like, we're probably going to get 30-plus fantasy points. And he hasn't hit yet. And maybe I'm just waiting on something that's not coming. But I do think sooner or later I'm going to look up and be like, man, this was the PJ Washington night, and I didn't play him. Cody Zeller has been fantastic for the Hornets. I've always liked Cody Zeller as a point-per-minute guy. He just never really got those minutes. And last year, he just always seemed to stall out at 30 fantasy points. Good for him to go massive on the Lakers. 29 minutes played, 50-plus fantasy points. But he's had a double-double in every game thus far. So really high floor guy here. If you're playing a shorter slate, turbo slate, or even a showdown slate, I don't know if they have it for this. But I think he's the guy that just doesn't get the love from the masses that he should, just because he doesn't often flex the upside. But I guess the Kings, certainly an opportunity because of pace of play and whatnot. Although the Kings so far have actually projected or have statistically profiled, if you look at team pace stats, as one of the slower pace teams. I don't know if that's going to be sustainable long term, but Luke Walton, man. Luke Walton. It's gone to Luke Walton. Actually, I got him at 105.9 here. I guess I guess they've been fine. Utah Jazz is down there. Magic Cavs. So all that we expected. That's like leftovers from last year. Pacers are a little bit slower too. Buddy Hield at 6,200 against the Charlotte Hornets. I will take some of that. I took a shot on Buddy Hield against the Clippers. Bad matchup. I just thought 6K for Hield. Just a low price. He's going to take shot attempts. And I think, this is a game that should go fast enough with 2 sloppy defenses that the double-digit shot attempts for Buddy will be there. He's not going to shoot 15% for the rest of his career. So I'll take a shot on him just to give me the north side of 30 as a late-night hammer candidate. De'Aaron Fox, a little bit of do-it-all. This team's still without Marvin Bagley, 39 fantasy points, 43 fantasy points in 2 of his 4 games. Utah's a tough matchup, so I basically don't even care about any team, any player stats against Utah because that game just doesn't count. And even in 20 minutes on night 2 of a back-to-back in a blowout, he got you almost a point per minute there. And then Phoenix was a game where they did have Bagley, so it was a range outcome for him to not be a fantastic play. So I don't mind a shot of Fox. I think Buddy Hield point per dollar is my favorite play there. And then Nemanja Bjelica, I think, could thrive here. I think off the bench, Bogdan Bogdanovic is really cheap. 23, 16, 28 fantasy points his last 3 games. Again, we take out the Utah game and we look at his 2 games without Bagley, and we got 20 plus fantasy points. So absolutely introduce Bogdanovich to the value player pool for me. And then on the Hornets side, is there any small sample DVP that has just been sticking out for teams against the Kings? Looks like center has been the main one. And maybe shooting guard. Gary Harris had 28 and 30 minutes. Donovan Mitchell had 25, 26 minutes. We talked about how that game was a blowout. Caesar McCollum, 27.5 and 34 minutes. That's always volatile with Damian Lillard going off, and they seesaw. And then Devin Booker had 42, so maybe Dwayne Bacon's a fantastic play. And I'm not giving him enough love. 11, 25, 15, 26. Boy. 11 against probably the best guard defenders in the league, Kawhi and Patrick Beverley. Not going to overreact to that. 21 minutes against Minnesota. That was a blowout. And 37 and 33 in matchups that were neutral to... Well, maybe it wasn't that neutral against the Lakers. So 4,900. I'm looking for 30. I think he could get it. I think I like Buddy Hield a little bit more here. I'm starting to like the value plays that are developing now. I don't have Rozier in my short list, but one day he'll be a fantastic play, and I'll just not have him. Jazz hosting the Clippers. Holy crap! This game might not score 200 points, dog. Wow. All right, so these are probably 2 of the best defenses in basketball. And you could asterisk the Clippers because of how the Suns kept in there and yada yada. They don't have PG-13 yet. But Utah Jazz has not allowed an opposing team to score 100 real points yet. And I don't know that continues against a team as talented as the Clippers. But yeah, so far, Phoenix, 95 points. Sacramento, 81. The Lakers, the LeBron James, Anthony Davis, who hit 1 million free throws last night, 95. And that was the game they turned the ball over 22 times. And then OKC, 95. So yeah, none of those teams, with the exception of the Lakers, really are as talented as the Clippers. And it's an ESPN game. Both teams going to play up. But this total sure feels a little bit on the high side. With that said, it seems like when we see 2 good defensive teams get together, might look at the Celtics and the Raptors the last couple times they've met. It does seem like the teams play harder, and there's just a lot of good basketball to watch. But holy cow, if this isn't the most uncomfortable DFS game. Kawhi Leonard is interesting no matter what the matchup here. I think anytime you can put Kawhi Leonard on this team without Paul George against in a game that's going to be close, I think you start getting the most out of Kawhi Leonard. He has gotten 57 and 61 fantasy points in his last 2 games, 30 and 27 real points. And it's not necessarily the most high-scoring games. 111 real points for the Clippers there. Under 9K, it's another one of those cheap shots at 50-plus fantasy points. And he does a little bit of everything. So I don't mind looking at Kawhi here on television. I don't have a Kawhi left. I need to work on it. But man, so far this slate's really offering a lot of ways to build lineups. There's a couple mid-tier spots, and then there's a lot of people at that 9K range that can make the argument. So this is probably going to be a high-scoring game. I mean, like, Kawhi's the same price as Bradley Beal. He's 100 more than Kyrie. Dame's not too far. So yeah, I don't know, man. This could be a crazy slate for lineup construction. And then how the Jazz really the favorite team here. I feel like if you take one guy away from the Jazz here, we might have a problem. Mike Conley's been guarding himself. Have you seen how he's shooting? It's not been great. This would be the game where he shakes out of it. But 0 for 7 against Phoenix. 5 for 11 against Sac. 3 for 11 against the Lakers. 1 for 16 against the OKC Thunder. He has hit 3 of his threes thus far. It has been a rough shooting start for Conley. the guy that's been picking up the team, putting it on its back, is Donovan Mitchell, who's taken 24 shot attempts. Look at his real points: 25, 15, 24, 32. If Kawhi Leonard and or Patrick Beverley shuts down Donovan Mitchell, I don't know how the Jazz are favorited here. And then another source of scoring for the Jazz has been Bojan Bogdanovic. But at 5,500, I don't know how much meat's left on the bone in this matchup. He's coming off two matchups that I think are net positives. Phoenix and Sac played 37 minutes against Phoenix, 29 real points, 26 points against Sac. He might be a sneaky back pocket play on a big slate or a short slate, a turbo slate, showdown slate, what have you. But it certainly bodes to, or to me, it stands to reason that if the Clippers, Doc Rivers scheme Donovan Mitchell out of it, I don't know that we bank on Mike Conley and Royce O'Neal to pick up the slack. And I don't know that there's enough interior scoring for the for Rudy Gobert, who rarely takes double-digit shot attempts. This just seems like a weird spread, I don't know. Maybe some Bogdanovic here, somebody I might look at. I put Bojan. You guys know that Bojan Bogdanovic and Bogdan Bogdanovic are not related? Like, how crazy to have two players in the NBA, the greatest basketball players on the planet, and one letter separates you from somebody else, and you guys don't even know each other. It's weird. One game left on the docket. Take a pause for the cause. One more again. Remind you guys, this afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Gundacker99. Man, it would mean a lot to me if you join me over there. We'll have some fun as more news has come out. We get some hot takes from the co-hosts. We have some fun with the chat. And we'll have a good time talking some basketball for what is going to be a raucous big slate. 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Be there and go ahead and get your Twitch account signed up now. And if you have Amazon Prime, ask me about it later. You can help support me for free. Phoenix Suns at the Golden State Warriors. The last game on the docket. 229 is our total here. 5-point spread in favor of the home team, Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry, D'Angelo Russell, Draymond Green were all fantastic plays finally against the defensive stylings of the New Orleans Pelicans. Was that the get-right spot? Steph walked away with 55.25 fantasy points, a double-double with assists, 17 shot attempts. Really thought that, shot attempts could be 20-plus to start the season. It really hasn't been that way. But D'Angelo Russell had a monster game that game too, 44.75 fantasy points, almost triple-doubled. That's insane. And then Draymond Green, man, that's what we were waiting on. Draymond to be a backbone player for that team. 34 minutes. He put up a triple-double and got you 58.75 fantasy points. This is a Warriors team that is super, I don't want to say outspoken, but they've been on the podiums taking questions. And this guy, Draymond Green, has been a guy that publicly stated, we effing suck right now. And I think he's not gonna stay there and take a beating. He's going to play with emotion. He's going to play with high narrative. And I think at 7,500 in this matchup against the Suns with this total, he is another guy that still gives us a cheap shot at 50-plus fantasy points. And I think, you guys have been kind of inside my brain here. I think we can argue OKC good defense, Clippers good defense. Maybe the rough start out the gate, and even that Clippers game, he got injured for a little bit. I think the Warriors, people might have overreacted to them for fantasy. I think this is a spot where they're right back in the mix, 100%. Nonetheless, their defense I don't expect to be great. The Pelicans just kind of didn't score. The Phoenix Suns, led by Devin Booker, Kelly Oubre, all in play for me today. Even Dario Saric to an extent. One piece of information to watch for this game comes on the Golden State side. and that's the status of Willie Cauley-Stein, center that came over from Sacramento. He's probable for this game, so it would be a season debut. And while he's probable, Kevin Looney may still be out. I think he's out. I'll double check that. I think that out is a lingering out from him not being in the Pelicans game. And then Marquise Chris, who seemed like a lot to get minutes without Looney against the Pelicans, got just 9 minutes in that game. Willie Cauley-Stein is a super talented center. He's 4,700, probably too cheap. If Looney were to miss another game and they don't trust Marquise Chris, Willie Cauley-Stein is way too cheap. And this is just me hoping that he gets, 20, 25 minutes. He is that dynamic of a player, and we've seen him in Sacramento be a big-time point per minute guy. He was recently spotted scrimmaging in the G League, and it appears things went well. He should provide much-needed depth for the Warriors, who have struggled so far. It's not immediately clear if he'll be on a minutes restriction. So that last sentence is the key here. Maybe Steve Kerr kind of indicates whether they take it easy with Willie Cauley-Stein, but he's a young gun, young blood. And at 4,700, there is certainly meat on the bone for him in this game, in this matchup against the Phoenix Suns. So I would be looking at that quite a bit. But give me all the Draymond, give me quite a chunk of Steph Curry. I will say maybe I don't have as much Steph Curry as if this was the first game I looked at on the slate. You know what I'm saying? Like I probably, Steph Curry's a fantastic play. There's a lot of fantastic plays in the 9K areas. $100 more gives me Russell Westbrook. And, even in the night that, it was Curry over Westbrook in the Pelicans game, Westbrook only missed Curry by 5 points. And we know Westbrook's floor is probably higher on a day-to-day basis than Curry. So I don't know. I don't know if Curry ends up being the highest owned point guard here. I still think people are married to the thought of Curry without KD and MVP stuff. And I get it. And it could just be that all these 9K guys all give us 50, and it's just like a plus minus of 5 to 7 fantasy points, and it's not that big of a difference anyway. But yeah, I'm curious to see where the ownerships fall in this game. Any other big? I had Alec Burks listed as a potential value play here, but I'm gonna wait for news to come out on that. Devin Booker is under 8K. Golden State has not been good defensively. He is a guy that can give us 40-plus fantasy points, 49 and 42 against the Clippers of all teams and Sacramento. The Suns, for what it's worth, have just come off a stretch of playing, I think, 3 of the best defenses in the Western Conference. Do you guys disagree with that? Utah, the Clippers, and Denver. And I think you guys have heard me beat a dead horse here. Denver on the road, the day after they lost their starting center to a suspension, scrapped him to overtime, lost by 1. Then night 2 of them back-to-back coming out of that altitude, beat the Clippers, and then they had to face the Utah Jazz. So Devin Booker's end results may not be super flashy, but my goodness, has his matchups not been great. So against Phoenix, man, they could get a little bit of a shootout going, probably see 20-ish, if not more, shot attempts for Devin Booker here. And maybe draw some fouls, get to the line. So I certainly like Devin Booker, and I think his price has a lot of room, a lot of meat on the bone. And a 1v1 versus D'Angelo Russell, he certainly probably has the higher floor. So I like that. Then Kelly Oubre, 6,200. I'm kind of glad his price hasn't moved in the last couple of games. 6K, 61K in his last 2 games. Kelly Oubre might be a tier 1 for me today. You guys that are listening, that are VIP subscribers, be prepared to see Kelly Oubre's name in a tier 1. These minutes are just crazy. His production right now is fantastic. The Golden State defense doesn't scare me. And again, if he's putting 40s and 30s in tough matchups, I mean, I'll take my chances against Golden State as a mid-price late-night hammer option. Absolutely, man. So that's our first look at today's slate. Be sure to let me know what you guys are thinking. Anyone that sticks out for you guys in the comments below. I will be live. I don't know if you knew about this. Twitch.tv/Gundarker99. Man, we got to push it. We got to push it. We got to push it. I'm trying to get to 100 live viewers on one of these streams within a week or two. And I think tonight is as great of an opportunity as any because of how big the slate is. I don't expect too many of you guys to roll over for 3-game slates, but today, big slate. Should be a lot of fun. A lot of hot takes by Raj. Those are always fun. So come join me over there. If you got anything else for me, you've seen the throughout the whole video, twitter.com/GundackerSports. Link to that in the description below. You tweet at me. DMs are open. I appreciate you guys. If you listen to me ramble this whole video, I love each and every one of you. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, help me out. We're on the push for 5K subscribers. And like the video and engage, man. If you really, truly care, leave a comment and interact with the video. And it shakes up the YouTube algorithm. And it makes me have more than 300 views. Do you feel like I'm worth more than 300 views versus, some of the content that's out there for? Do you feel like I'm just saying, if you feel like it, you can support by interacting with the video. I'll see you guys later this afternoon. Love you guys. Good luck. God bless. Go win some money.